911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing tonight? It's so good to see all of you. This is going to be such a good show. I have some great friends waiting in the green room for us. So I know you guys are all really excited, so we're going to get right into it because I don't want to keep them waiting. But I'm just going to say some shout outs to everybody. I do want you to know there is a special guest you guys are not aware of, but he is coming on with us tonight. I do have Ruckus with me. So it's going to be Deb, Ruckus, and Sleuth. So I hope you guys are ready for some really great conversation. Hey, Lynn, so good to see you. Hi, Radar. Hey, Derek. I hope you are feeling no pain, my dear. Hi, Dee. How are you? Hey, Boston. Hello, Maria. Good to see you, my dear. Hi, CJK. Hi, Dee. Who else do we have? Hey, Miracle Hearts. Good to see you. Hi, Mrs. Thang. Good to see you. Hi, Susie. Hey, Lisa. Good to see you. Hi, Rescue All the Dogs. Tech Death, I still love your music best. Tech Death's music that's in my intro is just unbelievable, you guys. Please make sure you check out his channel and like and subscribe. His music is so fantastic. Hey, Beach Fairy, good to see you. Good to see you guys. So good to, hi, Boston. Hey, Jill. Hi, Indy Pam. You guys are so welcome. I did do my monthly subscription for my memberships for you guys. So congratulations to all of you that got the free memberships for a month. Hey, Ronnie C., how are you? Hi, David. Butterfly kisses. So good. Hey, Westeros Will. Good to see you too. Lots of people in here. Lots of familiar faces. Hey, Fusa. Thank you, my dear. Hi, V. Marie. Purdue RN. It's good to see all of you. I'm going to go ahead and bring my panel on, you guys. I've got Deb from True Crime Notebook. Hey, Deb, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Ruckus, how are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm very good and very glad to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Hey, Sleuth.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see all you guys.
Yeah.
Glad to have you on.
It's good to be seen.
I thought it would be interesting to have us all talk about true crime and some of these cases that we cover. I thought it would be quite interesting. I was telling Deb, I don't really have a set anything. It's like not anything anything goes, but I do want, we can talk about any of the cases, guys, that are out there. We can talk about Delphi. We can talk about Idaho. We can talk about whatever. Flora. I know you guys know Flora is really dear to my heart, and I don't think it's covered enough. So we could talk about Flora as well. But I do think that there's a couple things we could discuss about Delphi that's kind of got people riled up a little bit, and as is with Idaho. There's some stuff going on there too. So however you guys feel. What's going on?
I'm just glad to be here with you guys. And I think we're kind of lucky, Crispin. We're sitting here with two handsome guys on a Saturday night.
We are lucky.
Right?
Yep.
I think my wife would argue with you about that.
I
Blush, blush.
She married you, didn't she?
Yes. Yeah, she's not too smart. Yeah, now, this, just to touch base on what's going on with the Idaho 4 with this whole witness making a deal to speak with the the defense. To me, it doesn't make a big deal. It's not a huge event. They have his DNA. They have him tied to it. I really don't think witnesses at this point are going to have any kind of impact on the trial, to be honest with you.
That's kind of what I felt too, but I've just seen so much on social media and Twitter. People are losing their minds over it. They've got all kinds. They want to throw her under the bus. Why would she be called in for exculpatory evidence? What could she possibly have that could exclude him? And all of that kind of thing. And I don't know if you guys saw, but they do have a motion hearing set for May 25th now.
You saw that.
That just came out. So don't know what that motion could be. It would be nice if it would just be him pleading guilty, but I don't know what to think about it.
He hasn't pled anything yet. I don't understand how Idaho works. He's going to get to see most of the evidence before he even pleads guilty, not guilty, or anything. That's
right.
Crazy to me.
Richard Allen hasn't pled yet either, though, has he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he pled not guilty.
Oh, he did plead not guilty. Okay.
Yeah, he went to his advisory, told the judge he could afford an attorney.
That's right.
He changed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot. Sorry.
I feel like Koberger and his attorneys might be at odds.
Do you think?
Yeah, he's probably trying to get him to do a bunch of weird stuff. Then they're like, well, we need to stick to a plan. We need to come up with a real plan. And he's probably trying to pull him in some strange direction.
Right.
I love the way they keep throwing women on his team when he's a misogynist. There's no doubt about it. And they keep throwing women at him.
Yeah.
They're trying to make him look good.
That picture of him sitting in court with the female attorney and the way he kind of looks over at her and smiles. And I'm thinking, I wonder what's going through his head while he's looking at this woman sitting next to him, defending him.
I wonder what was
Probably
going through
something
her head.
far from the realm of reality. That's for sure.
Probably Sleuth. You're probably right.
He's a strange one.
He definitely is. He's scary. His
Yeah.
eyes are so scary to me when you look at that man.
Well, you look
Did
what
you
he was able to accomplish in 9 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Did you guys see the document that there was something that just came out, and I'm trying to think if I sent it to myself. Let me look and see. It just came out. Gosh, I bet I didn't send it. And go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. I'll look for it.
Okay. Was it a document about her? Was it the document about her testifying?
I just saw it and I scanned it real quickly, and I don't even remember now what I saw.
Oh, that's okay.
It's been a long day.
I know the feeling.
Hang
I
on,
mean,
I'll
I'm
find
constantly grabbing stuff and putting it in different folders. I don't know how these guys stay so on top of their game. Sleuth is always so prepared. Everything is so great on his show. And I'm sitting here fumbling around looking for stuff all the time.
Oh, you are too. You are.
It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors.
It's all smoke and mirrors. I don't know about that, but
it's all about the presentation, right, Sleuth?
Yeah. Yep. Sleight of the hand.
Oh yeah, you guys are great. And
thanks for the invite, by the way.
You're so welcome. I've been wanting to invite you for a while, and then when I started thinking about doing these, I was like, he's got to definitely be on my panel. So
yeah, thank you.
Now, Sleuth, I'm only here because 2 other people couldn't make it.
That's not
That's
true.
why I'm here.
That's not true.
They told me.
But
I made a commitment, so I'm here.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're here.
Love you, Ruckus. Love you.
And Ruckus, I have so wanted to meet you for a while, and so I'm really glad that Steve brought it up, because I was like, seriously.
Yeah, we were talking, and he was like, "Hey, would you be willing to do a panel?" Absolutely. And that was it. And I was like, "Wow, I wonder if she's going to contact me."
It was so funny because he told me, he goes, and you know how Steve is. He goes, I got everything covered. I sent him everything. So that's why I thought you already had the invite and everything, because he said he sent it to you.
No, he didn't. I'll address that with him. Yeah.
I'm like, no problem.
That's a whole nother matter.
Yeah.
It's okay. I send it to him. I usually text it to him, and he's always wanting me to email it to him. So it's so funny. He's
I
great.
never look at my email.
Yeah, so Deb wanted it text too, and I emailed it to her. And I know I was worried, Sleuth. I was like, I hope you got it.
Yeah, I was like jumped at the opportunity. I probably emailed you back before you even noticed.
You did email me quickly, but I was
like,
happy.
oh hell yeah!
I was happy that you did. That was great. So.
I'm still waiting on these documents, though.
I know.
I know.
Deb's like, he's like, what documents? What's she talking about?
I'm a total loser. I did not send it to myself, apparently, and I can't even remember.
I'm helping you with the search here.
What are you looking for, Deb?
I don't even. Let's just move on.
Do you guys remember, or have you guys heard anything about this? I think it's Delphi related, isn't it? Something about a letter from the defendant? Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he definitely sent a letter.
He sent a letter to the court. Does anybody know or got any insight on what that might be?
Well, I have a question about that, because it says, it's worded, it says to, and then, / from.
Yeah.
Maybe it's being forwarded.
Yeah, so I'm confused if it's to the court from him or from the court to him.
It appears to be it's from him to the court, but not going through his attorneys. Even though they're probably the ones that delivered it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably
somebody said he was thanking the court for moving him. I don't know if that would be it or not, but
well, from what I understand, he hasn't been moved.
Yeah, I haven't seen any indication.
Somebody said he had, but I don't know.
What is it? I think on the letter, I think it was delivered to the prison he's been held at.
Yeah. And I figured if he'd been moved, we'd have heard by now. But I know that there's a couple people that said he was already moved. So who knows?
I say move him. If he wants to move him.
Oh, I
Anything he
agree.
wants.
100%.
Right.
Spoil him.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep
Yep.
him happy and alive, please.
Just exactly. That was me. I'm like, let's not have this man die before he can even have a day in court.
If he does, if it even gets that far.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think he's happy with his attorneys? Because it occurred to me, maybe him sending the letter without his attorneys doing that for him and just doing it on his own, that it occurred to me that maybe he is not happy because they haven't been visiting or keeping up with him.
I don't know. I can't for the life of me imagine why he would be addressing the court other than trying to plead his case to get moved.
Yeah, because I would think your attorneys wouldn't want you surpassing them or going over them without their knowledge.
No.
But I bet you they knew. They probably delivered that to the court.
Yeah.
But it's just posturing. It's just posturing.
I think it's Andrew Baldwin, right? I think he's a posturer. I think from what I've known about this guy and been able to figure out or find out, I think he likes to do stuff like this with his clients. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about him. He's probably a very good attorney and very good at what he does. But I do think you're right, Ruckus. I think there's a lot of stuff going on here that's for show.
Oh,
yeah, he did it from day one. I mean, from day one, he came out of the courtroom and started getting sympathy for his client based on what he said.
Hey, guess what? Guess who's in the chat, guys? Cop Faxx.
Cop Faxx.
Perry's here. We were just talking about you, hun.
Yes, we were.
Need to have Perry up here.
I know, Perry. You should be up here too. He says the individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover.
Huh.
It's a good
quote. Great quote.
It is a great quote. Everybody misses you, Perry. Just so you know, they're always asking for you.
I was.
Yeah, Deb was.
Steve and I are gonna corner him one of these days. We'll reel him in.
Yeah, he's great. He is great. So when you guys, I guess I'll just ask, Sleuth, what was your first thought when you saw the picture that dropped of him, and them saying that he was being that he was deteriorating and the mental stuff that they talked about? What was your thought?
My thought was that he was in good hands. I like the strategy of the court or of his defense. I like that they're doing things, whether it's these little subtle things. But I mean, it's obvious that they're just doing whatever they can. So, kudos to them. That's what you deserve from a defense team. So they're doing what they're going to do. It's just up to the other side not to fold, I guess.
Yeah. Do you think that he's delusional? Do you think that he's possibly experiencing all the things that they're saying he's experiencing?
I don't know. I would like to see a professional stand in front of a microphone and tell me, what he thinks or what she thinks,
Right. Exactly. There were rumors that he went to some sort of an institution, whether it be rehab or whatever, after the murders. Very quickly.
There's some documentation that leads to that. Some kind of an agreement between the responding officer, I believe his wife and him. So I have a feeling that he may have been going a little bit crazy that night and may have been on a binge, and they made a deal, because that happens, on scene. Well, you can go to the hospital like your wife is asking, or I can take you into custody. Something like that is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Hospital.
In Florida, that's called the Marchman Act in Florida. It's for your own protection. If you're walking down the street and you're so drunk you can't even take care of yourself, they can Marchman Act you, put you in a facility for 72 hours, or they can Baker Act you. That's for psychiatric episodes. So.
And there's some documentation that leads to that, but it doesn't really say anything about being in a hospital or anything like that. There's just, I guess, ex-coworkers of Richard Allen's that say rumor was that he was hospitalized. So you have that as well.
Yeah, and his attorneys are not doctors. They can't just say he has something, and that is something that to remember. And my feeling is if they thought that, I would think they would be petitioning the court to have him examined.
When they said that he had psychosis and all that, I was like, this is I've seen it a million times.
I mean, they're saying he's got schizophrenia, showing signs of schizophrenia. And I'm like, that doesn't just come out when you're 50 years old. I mean, it's, that's a diagnosis
it's not
that happens.
New.
Yeah.
I don't think it's new, I think.
It can, but it's very rare. And the other thing is that psychosis and schizophrenia have similar characteristics, the hallucinations, that type of thing. So it's hard to say. The other thing is they do need to have him looked at professionally if he hasn't been already, because as my husband said, you cannot diagnose mental illness from a picture that they're showing us.
Yeah,
no,
and I'm sure he has
receiving. Yeah, he's receiving that treatment.
I think so as well.
Yeah, just because of the case. And sorry, Sleuth, I didn't mean to talk over you, buddy.
No, I was just kind of piggybacking off what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a team, and where he's at, there's a nurse's station and a medical station, and there's mental health. That mental health is talking to him at least every other day, at least. Just because of his crimes and what he's been accused of.
Maria, you're right. He's sane enough to write a letter to the courts.
I said that too.
I
actually sent that to Adam.
Mm-hmm.
That picture was very shocking. A lot of people, his attorneys are fantastic. Like Sleuth said, they're doing some great lawyering, and they got the impact exactly what they were looking for. They got out of that.
Yeah.
Well, if he's not able to drink, and he hasn't been able to drink for over 6 months, 7 months, whatever it is now, there's no way that he wouldn't be dropping an enormous amount of weight, in my opinion.
Right.
Hey, Derek. Hey, Derek. How are you, my dear?
What's up, Derek?
Good to
Mr.
see you.
Farmer.
Thank you so much for the super chat. We love you. Glad you're here. He said he had to run to the dispensary. He left that note on my chat. I'll be back. I was like, okay.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, it's good to see him. He's usually working when I'm on, so I don't get to see him very much.
Derek's a good guy.
He is a good guy. What do you guys how do you guys feel about somebody asked me this the other day, why don't we have a trial date yet? When's the trial going to be? I don't look for the trial for years, in my opinion. I mean, if this goes to trial, this case for Delphi, I don't look for it anytime before 2025.
I don't think Richard Allen's going to trial.
I agree 100%. I don't think that's going to see trial.
You think he's going to plead guilty?
Well, I think he's working on a plea deal.
Yeah, different charges, and then he'll plead guilty to those.
Right. Exactly. You know the drill.
Because, can you elaborate on what your opinion is of that? Why you think
like
that?
What different charges, Sleuth?
Yeah. Maybe accessory. Maybe, who knows? I'm not sure. I just feel like he's getting ready to. He needs his deal first, just like Keegan Kline, where he's not going to talk, right? He needs to get the advice from his attorneys. They're going to ask, okay, now's the time for you to tell me everything that you have, because this is the time where we're going to start negotiating. I need to know if you have that credit card in your back pocket or not. What are we dealing with? And I think it was very similar to Keegan Kline. He said, you're facing this, or you give me that credit card. And he's telling him, well, tell me what kind of deals you can work out, because I'm sure his family might even be at risk, is what he's thinking.
Cammie says that there's no accessory law in Indiana. If somebody dies in a commission of a crime that you're involved in, it's felony murder.
That is true.
I'm getting so much backlash about that term. felony murder, because I heard it and I used it, but I guess there's no such thing as
There is no
felony
such
murder.
thing in Indiana, and I've
Right.
tried to say that on my lives, and I get absolutely vilified for it. But if you look at the law in Indiana,
Just
there's
murder.
it doesn't say anything about felony murder.
Now, is it just semantics though? Does it mean the same thing? Because felony murder is like that. They're saying if you're involved in a crime where somebody's killed, you're as guilty as they are.
That's what it is in Indiana. If
Right.
somebody is killed while you're involved in that crime, even if you were driving the car and somebody was killed in an armed robbery, you are guilty of their murder.
That's kind of how it looks like what's going on with Richard Allen right now. I think that's how his charges read, right?
Yeah, to me it is, and they've got the kidnapping as the aggravating factor. So the way I read it, the way I see it, they just need to prove that he kidnapped them, and that's what
Exactly.
caused their demise.
Exactly. And I think they have enough to do that. I think they have enough to prove that he ordered them off that bridge.
Well, sure,
by
they have
gunpoint.
audio and video of them.
I mean,
Yeah,
by
but you got to
gunpoint.
remember they need if they believe that there's a more violent participant, they need that individual. So it's at that point they're going to try to leverage him.
I can't wait to find all of this stuff out, Sleuth. I don't know about you, but I'm chomping at the bit.
I think we
So do you
all
guys-
are.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. It's just it's crazy. Everything's pointing in the same direction.
Mhm.
And if you follow it back, you know, it all starts with Keegan Klein, in my eyes.
Right.
If you go back, I followed the case for 6 years. I started following this case the day they went missing. And if you go back through everything we've been through, all the ups and downs, all the POIs, and when I say that, I'm talking about social media POIs, because we don't have that many that law enforcement has talked about. And there's just been so much silence by law enforcement that it left this vacuum that was filled, because as human beings, when we don't get information, we tend to try to fill it for ourselves. And I think that that's what happened in this case. And I think that there's just a lot we don't know about what law enforcement truly was doing in the back room of this case. We don't know everything, and we've tried to fill in the blanks and the pieces. And I don't know. I'm still, with everything that's actually been going on, I really do believe it's possible that he was a lone wolf at this point in time.
It's possible.
And I know others don't, and that's fine. I respect that, because I know how that can be. I've been there.
I think he was a lone wolf in the actual kidnapping and the murder. I think that somebody else was involved in catfishing him there. Maybe Kagan, maybe somebody that was using Kagan's Dropbox. I'm not sure, but I think he was a lone wolf in that.
As far as committing the crime, yeah.
Yeah, I go back to what Dave Burston and Doug Carter both said, when they unveiled the sketch, that this is the person who's responsible for the murder of this little girls.
And I go back,
possible.
and I go back and forth with them saying that they went back and forth on whether or not there was more people involved than just one.
Right.
I believe there is. I believe that. Now, he could have done it by himself. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But just the way everything's pointing to me tells me that there's more actors, and not just someone who helped set them up because someone he definitely did catfish these girls.
Yeah.
And participated in getting them there. But I believe that there was more involved in the actual act. His job was to take them down the hill. Otherwise, they would have just charged him with murder. Why go through all this?
Okay, I'm picking your brain because this is like a rare opportunity here.
Sure.
So what about the fact that they found his bullet in between the girls from his gun, and he said no one has ever borrowed it? How do we reconcile that with? What do you think happened there?
Well, what I think happened there was he racked his gun to gain compliance. We still don't know. We can surmise that an edged weapon was used because of the search warrants. But we still don't know. We don't have a time of death, cause of death, mode of death. We don't know what the intent was, the motive, none of that. We don't know any of that.
Right.
So we don't know. Did he use the gun to rack it to gain compliance? That whatever, because in that situation, he's obviously never been in it before. Everything's heightened, his emotions, and I don't know if you
Adrenaline.
guys, yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever been in a fight, flight, or freeze situation, but you don't remember much. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen cops that shot 2 magazines, and say they only shot 2 bullets. I only shot 2 rounds, but
It's a
they went through 2
blackout.
magazines. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't always remember things as accurate. Go back to the, black, all in black or in, blue, because I was involved in actually catching a rapist. And when I had to go identify him, that night I looked at him. It was my neighbor that this
Yuck.
happened to. Yeah. When I looked at him, I said, oh, he's wearing kind of a members only jacket. I thought it was a jean jacket from where I was. So, your memory's not always
Exactly.
Mhm.
You're
right
not
on.
out looking for a killer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Exactly. And that's the thing that people forget. Witnesses didn't know they were going to be witnesses to anything.
Mhm.
At the time
Yeah.
that they were there, they had no idea that a crime was being committed or had been committed. And even if they had, even in that situation, adrenaline and all the other stuff, it's hard to have everybody have nobody's going to have the same story of what they saw.
Right.
And as a lone wolf, I think it is very possible because he could have just done it very quickly and then it could have been over with. And then the rest is just panic and
Mhm.
covering up and misleading and the signatures and things like that. But the part that's curious to me is the timing. You have 1:30. Okay. He shows up at 1:30. That's when the girls left. 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
So, and why is he backing in to the CPS building?
Mhm.
Why is he bypassing these 3 young girls? Doesn't attack the single female, and somehow is hidden all of a sudden. As soon as the girls show up, he's no longer visible. He's not on the bridge. He's not on the left. He's not on the right. He's not visible to the female hiker anymore. She doesn't mention seeing him again, but she does see the girls. So why is he now hiding? It's almost as if he's expecting them to go right where he told them to go.
Mhm.
Oh, I believe for a fact that he did.
Yeah.
Sleuth, I do. I mean, I think that him or somebody set them up to be there that day. He knew for whatever reason they were going to be there. And that's my opinion. I mean, I really do believe that. The timeline is so tight. It is absolutely so incredibly tight. At least Ruckus can speak to this. In my opinion, it's crazy tight. And there's no way that he would not have known that the girls were going to be there. It wouldn't have just been a happenstance, in my opinion, because I think he went there to do something horrible. Now, maybe not murder. Maybe he was going to just do some sort of sexual assault. Maybe that's what his intent was. But things got out of hand. Who knows? But I think he stepped off that bridge as soon as the female hiker left, and he went into that path, the deer path that leads right down to the crime scene. I think he stood there because if you stand there, you can actually see through those trees right onto the bridge. They necessarily cannot see you if they're out on the bridge. And I think he watched them walk right out onto that bridge, and then he came out from there and followed them.
But, and I agree. I agree with that. What steers me towards what I'm about to say is because of everything that's involved with this. Keegan Klein, everything that he's involved with is underage. These girls are underage. So he's looking for that specifically. And he brought the tools to commit this crime. And law enforcement is very, very confident that his job, whether he was by himself or not, his job was to kidnap these girls. I don't think anybody believes that he wanted to kidnap the girls at the south end of the bridge and then walk them all the way back to the CPS building. That doesn't even make sense.
And
No.
why
So there
why
was
pick
a
a victim
plan.
there at all? Like why not go kidnap somebody from the street? Why not go pick somebody
Right.
extremely vulnerable? Like
Exactly.
why? And you heard Doug Carter, right? He said, "Why Delphi? Why Carroll County? Why Libby? Why Abby?" He's saying that there's a reason that somebody targeted them. And who do we know was targeting them? Anthony Schatz, whether that's Kagan typing or that's somebody that's gained access to the account and for some reason has zeroed in on Libby. And from the 3rd to the 12th, I mean, there could have been all kinds of weird things going on. They could have been trying to meet. He could have been trying to maybe even assault her multiple times, maybe tried to meet up. So there's a lot we don't know. There's that whole week prior to the crime that's just kind of like a mystery.
And David Gray's got a point here. You know, it's hard to believe that Richard Allen didn't know of the girls. I don't know that when we say know them, I don't think he knew them, but I think he was aware of them. It is a small town. He had a very high profile job. People go into that store. He would have been seen. I've said before, he smoked outside of CVS. He would stand outside and smoke. They would get out of school. Libby would go with Kelsey to the McDonald's right across the parking lot after school to get an iced tea and a large fry.
Fries. Yep.
And he could have seen her from there, God knows when, and then started fixating on her. Who knows? But I'm just saying those things are possible that you have to think about. And I do agree with you. I know how it seems with the whole Klein thing and how it just seems absolutely positive that they had to be involved. But I go back to when law enforcement told us about Anthony Schatz, they didn't tell us about Kagan Klein. They didn't mention his name. He had been in custody for a year and a half, and they didn't tell us anything about him. What they wanted to know was people who were meeting the Anthony Schatz profile to call in and give them information. They didn't ask about Kagan. Kagan came about because once we found out who the Anthony Schatz profile was, people started racing, and I was one of them. We all did. Thinking, oh my God, this is the guy. They've been catfished. This is what's happened. And then the murder sheet just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, that it was the Kleins and, you know, the big search in the Wabash. I still think to this day that the big search in the Wabash doesn't have anything to do with the Kleins. It may have to do with Richard Allen. You guys do know that Kathy, his wife's mother, was very, very sick, and she lives in Peru. And Kathy was taking care of her during that time. It is very possible that Richard Allen was going back and forth, you know, between his mother-in-law's house and Delphi multiple times during this period. And there's time, you know, that gives him ample time to throw away evidence.
Well, who else lives in Peru?
I know who lives in Peru.
Yeah.
I do, Sleuth. I do. I understand.
Must have a delay. If it's true that, and I hate to say sources, but we've heard it from several reliable ones that they did in fact find a phone, then maybe that's how it got in the Wabash.
Could be any number of things.
That's exactly right.
I just try and follow the evidence and piece things together from experience. What these type of people usually do. Now, if you take the Anthony Schatz account, and when did law enforcement first know about that account? When they got Libby's phone. So they knew about it before they got that search warrant to go into Keegan Klein's house.
Yeah, and apparently Max knew about it too, had mentioned it. Her friend Max, apparently she had mentioned this person. So yeah, I do believe now that they were aware of that.
Right,
Yeah.
and he had told her not to go by herself and that she shouldn't meet him because she doesn't really know who he is.
Yeah, and she'd never seen, nobody would mention, law enforcement wouldn't say, hey, does anybody know who Keegan Klein is? Because these girls never saw Keegan Klein. They only saw that young model that he perpetrated being.
True.
So the fact that, when they did that search warrant on his home, they had enough evidence right there on the spot to put him in jail. Law enforcement doesn't mess around with CSAM stuff. So why didn't they? That perplexes me. a lot. That's not something you follow somebody.
They left him out for 3 years.
Well, do you think that they did that because they were working that CSAM ring that they didn't want to blow because his really?
No. Law enforcement doesn't play with CSAM. They'll lock him up. The only thing that I can even surmise that they would leave him out because they were working angle on is a double homicide.
Yeah.
You know, they will leave him out for that.
Another good point to bring up to go towards what you were saying, Kristen, is we know from the Barbara McDonald interview that they came to Keegan before they released the Anthony Shots information, and they kind of threatened him with it. They said, hey, we're going to release this information, so I hope you're ready for this. You know, you're not talking, so we're going to drop it. And the way they did it was so sneaky. 10 o'clock at night to feed the bloodlust of the social media, right? Knowing dang well that Keegan Kline created that account. But if you read the interview transcript, they're telling Keegan, like, we know you're not the only one that used it. But if he's going to face all of those CSAM charges, what is the motivation for him to even give up a name? There's zero motivation for him to say, hey, you know, this guy I met at the bar, Richard Allen, you know, one night we were hanging out and I let him check out the profile or something along those lines.
Yeah, because they also told him in that same interview that they didn't believe that he was Bridge Guy.
Right.
They probably know he's not Bridge Guy.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. How could you know, I mean, I never thought he was Bridge Guy.
Because he's not.
No.
I don't think he is.
I mean, Bridge Guy looks just like Richard Allen to me.
I don't think he could make it across that bridge, honestly.
Now, there's people that would argue with you that Richard Allen is not Bridge Guy. I believe he is. But I need to see the rest of that video. There's a lot of things that I want to see. It's none of my business, and they're never going to tell me. But if we could see that if we saw a couple seconds of that video that we have picked to pieces, how many times, how many different people have, I need to see him get closer. Then we'll know. Law enforcement are pretty confident that that's him because he walked closer and she filmed that. So his face came into focus more and more as he got closer and closer. And that picture's been altered, I don't think to hide anything. They were trying to enhance it. And it's just hard to when you zoom in on a picture like that.
It has been altered a little bit. And if you will go watch Gray Hughes videos, you'll see that. At the very beginning, Gray Hughes took the bridge guy and replaced him on the bridge to stabilize the video. Now, I'm not a tech person, but he stabilized the video. And law enforcement saw that and they liked it and asked to use it.
He did a great job.
Yeah, he's very good.
My question is, why didn't they stabilize it themselves?
Well, I think he did it so quickly, you know.
And there was some photoshopping on the right side of his body near his right arm. There's no doubt. I'm not an expert, but I can see that.
So. I think one of the girls, I think that Abby's standing there. I honest to God think he walked up behind her.
You mean like in front?
Yes.
I think she was struggling to cross that bridge.
She was standing next. I think she was standing when he approached. That's what's off to his right that Ruckus is talking about.
That
I think
elbow,
that's what I think they cut her out of that frame.
No, I mean on his body. Chris,
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Never
you
mind.
can see it's kind of blobbed near his right pocket where his right hand is.
Yeah, which is most likely a clear shot of his pistol.
Don't you think it's the gun that they didn't want people to see?
Yeah, because they had the bullet. You know, I think that's what they were trying to protect. The gun that leads to the knowledge of the bullet. And they just wanted to keep that part, I think, out of it.
How shocked was everybody when that bullet popped up?
I had heard rumors.
We'd heard about it before.
Yeah,
we had heard that there was possibility, but when they actually confirmed it, I have to say I was shocked. Even though there had been rumors.
I was glad they had it.
I was thrilled they had it, but I was at the same time thinking to myself, wow, this person, whoever this person is, could be in really deep doo-doo.
What do you guys think about the Young sketch? Why would they move from this guy that came forward You know, a lot of people are like, well, I'm sure mentioned it could have been Richard Allen. They knew he was there. So why would they go away from him to a younger person that doesn't look anything like Richard Allen, knowing that the older looking sketch kind of looks like him, looks a lot more like him than the young sketch? But they didn't just throw the other one away. Like, I know there was a report that came out, and I think they retracted that, where it said that he's no longer a person of interest. He's been kind of cleared, things like that. It seems like another strategy from law enforcement, and almost like this was them maybe talking to this other person, these other people that are involved. Is this who they're trying to present to us? Is this other party?
And from what I understand, the young sketch was actually made prior to
17
It was.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Prior to the
Yes.
second
from a witness. So who is this guy?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Well,
I think it's very possible in my brain that I thought about it a couple of different ways. That wouldn't it be ironic to find out that Richard Allen gave a description of somebody? But I still think that the young guy's sketch looks like Richard Allen. I know. I mean, I don't
The
think I'm
eyes.
crazy. I think if you put those two pictures,
Yeah.
just like Doug Carter said, and I've got one, but I don't like putting it up, but it has a picture of them melded together, like laying over each other. And if you look at those two together, you can see the facial features are the same. The eyes, the nose, this area right in here is all the same. Yeah, you've got some curly looking hair or whatever, but he used to have hair. And if you look at the pictures of him from 2016 in like November, he wasn't bald. He had hair. And you could have even considered that if he wasn't wearing a hat all the time, and his hair might even kind of look like that. So I don't know. That's just me, Sleuth. I get that you think it's maybe two different people.
No,
and
what I
it very
think
well
what I
be.
think what I think happened is let's say there's these two stories, right? And they're happening at the exact same time, and they're both true. Now they're confusing this as one story, but the truth is they have two separate stories that are going on, and I don't think they figured that out until recently.
I agree with you because I think the FBI sent him on a chase after Ron Logan.
Yeah.
And I think the FBI was absolutely and completely convinced that Ron Logan was their guy. And I don't think that the people that knew Ron Logan, which are the county sheriffs, believed that. And I think there was a lot of probably back and forth between these law enforcement people, the communication and them saying, no, this isn't him. It's somebody else.
I've just never put much faith in sketches. I've never seen one case where they bring that in court and say, look, see, it's him.
Yeah.
And usually the witness and the sketch artist don't do very well during cross-examination.
Did you see Trooper Bryant's sketch prior to the young sketch? He was talking about the case that he solved, and it was identical to this guy.
Yeah, so he's using
I mean, it looked exactly like the guy, and they caught him in like a day. They put it out, and he was busted.
That's funny.
It is funny because most of the time the
Rare,
sketches
but
don't really resemble the perpetrator much.
Right.
It's because,
and there was also
you can't remember who you walk by. Not so. I apologize, Deb.
That's
but you
okay.
walk by somebody in the next day or two, and somebody asks you to describe them. It's difficult, especially even if they tell you get a look at this person as they're going by. It's still difficult. Go ahead,
I
Deb,
try to use it in my lives. I've talked to my subscribers so many times about. I just use it as a woman going to a wedding shower or a bridal shower or a baby shower. And they bring the woman out and they stand her and have her turn around and everything and then have her leave the room and they play a game. And they say, tell us what she was wearing, what kind of jewelry she had on, all this stuff about her physical. And you can't believe how many people can't answer those questions. And they know this. It's not just that they don't remember, but they know this person. And I think that there's just been enough research for us to know that it's hard to pull stuff like that from memory.
That's why I don't talk about the sketches that much, just from my experience. That to me it's a non-issue.
Shane says, if I grow a beard, I look older. Clean shaven, I get asked for ID.
Yeah, I think I'm more concerned about the witnesses. Like, who were these people that were giving these completely different recollections? Because I don't think the young sketch the eyes look like him, but I mean that the older looking sketch is Richard Allen with the scruffy little beard,
Oh yeah.
Oh, for
the
sure.
chubby cheeks, the
For
square.
sure.
You got the
Mhm.
young sketch, he's clean shaven, he's got this curly like little afro going on and no scruff, and his chin like comes down more at like an angle. Richard Allen's is more like rounded off, just like the older sketch.
Well, I think that it's kind of confusing because there's also talk that some of the witnesses saw him with a mask over the lower part of his face. So
Mhm.
that makes you wonder, were they trying to fill in with the younger, he might have looked younger, hiding that part of the face. So were they trying to fill in the gaps there? Was the artist trying to fill in the gaps? And that's why the chin area looks different, because from here up, it looks very similar to the older
Yeah, you
sketch.
think they would like describe the eyes and then cover the face like how it was,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never understood if they thought that he had the three, especially the three girls that saw him that were heading to Freedom Bridge. They probably had them describe him. Why would they not have drawn a sketch with a mask like he said he had? Do you
Yeah,
understand? Do you
Yeah.
know, Ruckus, why they wouldn't have done that?
it's a
No,
good
it
question.
may be a ploy on law enforcement's part.
Okay.
I know this is you've heard this a million times, but they know a lot more than we know.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they could have done that as a ploy. They will use
hmm
the media as a tool.
And
Let me
leave
ask
out
you guys
information too,
something.
right?
Yeah, right. Pat Brown. What do you guys think about Pat Brown?
I've always respected her from years and years ago.
No,
I'm
I'm
not so.
sorry. I mean Ron Logan's neighbor, Pat Brown.
Oh, wrong Pat Brown. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I thought he was talking about the profiler.
Profiler.
Shout out to Pat Brown.
I was
Yeah.
like, okay. Let's
I
talk about Pat Brown. No.
I don't
Oh.
think Pat Brown had anything to do with it.
Mm-mm.
No, but what I'm talking about, did he find the girls?
Actually, Jacob Johns is the one that spotted them from across the creek, and he used his phone to zoom in, and people think that he said he saw the girls, but what he actually said, according to Becky, is he saw Libby's shirt.
Now, has anybody
what-
spoken to him?
Yeah, I mean, he was there for the search. You mean law enforcement?
No,
Or-
has he collaborated that story from Becky?
Becky, no, but Becky
Okay.
Becky did.
Okay.
So I think that shirt was in the water, and he saw that shirt, and it pointed them to the direction. Now, Pat
And
Brown
the shoe.
Pat Brown, and that's where the rumor the girls were found in the water started, when they, passed it over the radio.
Mhm.
The police officer said, "Is there any truth?" Blah blah blah, and Tobe said, "There's no truth to that at all." So
That
Well,
was
who
a
was
John
the-
Weaver, they said.
Who was
that was John Weaver, correct? That said that.
okay?
And
Who was the guy who was the guy that approached Weaver and said they found the girls? Though that always bothered me. There was
I don't know.
somebody. There was a witness or somebody that approached
Maybe
him and
Jacob.
said, the
I think
girls
it's
have
the
been
human
found.
element again. I think it's the same thing you were talking about with trying to recollect, things you just saw. It's kind of like when what's the whisper game where you whisper something in somebody's ear and then
telephone.
The telephone
Yeah,
game.
telephone.
yeah, the telephone game. I think that's what happened. Somebody yelled up, "Hey,
Right.
there's clothes in the water," and somebody else yelled up, "Hey, I think they found the girls in the water."
Yeah.
He turns around and says, "They found them in the water."
Yeah.
Something
Pat
like
Brown,
that. I
they-
think what
they-
might have happened.
Pat was the person who ran to the bodies first, because he was in that group with Becky's sister, I think, and
Right.
I can't remember who all was in there. So he did run to the girls' bodies when he saw them.
Because they went over the radio and they
Mhm.
called to the back to the fire station, and they said, "Hey, we just had a what did they
John
call him?"
Weaver,
But they didn't call him that at first. They said they called him something. Was it a
a searcher.
No, it wasn't a searcher. It was like a townsperson. What do you call another name for them? They said they had somebody come up to them and say the girls
Citizen?
had been. Pardon?
A citizen?
Yes, a citizen has reported the girls have been found in the water. And he was told this. John Weaver's who told us this, but somebody else told him. And that's when Tobe says we haven't heard that. There's no truth in that.
Right.
Well, if you look at where I think, and I could be wrong, but it looks like the shoe and that white piece of cloth and her Libby's shirt looks like it's across on the north side of the creek. So I can see somebody trying to zoom in with their phone and saying, "Hey, okay, that's a Nike shoe there." Kelsey, what kind of shoe did they have, or did your sister have? A black Nike. And then I can see him zooming and kind of looking around a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I can totally see that playing out that way.
Yeah,
I've
where
always
did the
been
deer
curious.
come in, you guys? Who said that they was standing on the other? There was the story for the longest time.
Yeah, the deer.
That there was he was looking through his iPhone and saw a deer, and then looked down and saw the girls.
That comes from Kelsey and Becky, and because Kelsey was there when that happened, she told that story.
And that was Erskine, right?
No, it was Kelsey told that story. Erskine talks about kind of what the crime scene looked like and things like that.
Now I want to know. I can't remember what his name is. The photographer that took pictures of
J. Kyle Keener.
Yeah, he said he could see the clothes from 75 feet away, and he knew that the girls wouldn't be far from that. Where was he standing when he saw the clothes?
I bet you he was on the private drive.
Probably.
Okay.
Because Kelsey and she was with a group of searchers over there. I can see him kind of getting his way over there, maybe even somewhere on the south end of the bridge.
So he's never come forward and said anything either. Huh?
Well, there's a whole there's talk about him early on, and I've been searching for it. So if anybody's out there and can find it, send it to somebody on the panel and we'll look into it. But apparently he posted images of the crime scene on one of his private social media platforms just briefly. And it caused like this huge uproar. He ended up getting fired, I think, from the Tribune for it. And
I do remember that.
Yeah. So there was this huge thing about him actually being all up in like the crime scene and taking photographs and stuff like that. I don't know if it's true, so I apologize if that's not a true story.
It's really scary though, Sleuth, when you bring all that up, because there's so many rumors out there about that. Stop and think about the damage that was done to that crime scene. If there were people out there traipsing around before they could secure it.
Yeah, Kim Riley had a big problem
and walking
with that.
around. Ruckus, talk about that. What does that do to a crime scene?
Yeah, that's horrible. That's horrible. But that could be the reason they called the dogs off as well. And I listened to the police scanners, and you can't really make anything out of it. There's like 3 different agencies on that, and you don't know if they're calling the mobile command station or they're calling the fire department or when it took place, because allegedly when that deputy or police officer or whatever talked to that John Weaver, that was prior to the girls being found. So why are we looking for bodies yet? Why
I think it was simultaneously. I think that might even been the confusion. Like, okay, we saw the clothes, and then immediately we saw the girls. And then that could have caused the confusion right there. Like we found them in the water, and then hence the.
According to Becky, Jacob Johns was looking across, and he did see 2 deer, which caught his attention. And then he panned down, and that's when he saw Libby's shirt.
Yeah, it's amazing. If, in fact, there were people traipsing around this crime scene, that's a travesty, and that's law enforcement not doing their job.
Exactly.
I mean, that's 101. That's first day of class. You don't let people come through the crime
Kim
scene.
Riley said spitting, urination. He said, I know it sounds gross. He's like, but they're out there and it's happening.
Oh, yeah, they're going to have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he was concerned about a contaminated crime scene for sure. That was one of his major concerns. You could see it on his face.
Now, these were civilians?
Yeah.
Yes.
Firefighters, everybody. They said 200 people.
They had major people out there, I think over 300 and some. The first night the girls went missing, traipsing around those woods, traipsing around all over out there looking for them. That's why nobody could understand why the girls weren't found.
Well, they weren't on that
first
side.
Night.
They weren't on that side of the creek that first night, correct?
Yeah,
But
I
they
spoke
should
to
have
Eric
been.
Williams. They were.
Yeah, and Ron
They
Logan
were-
said they were. He said
Yeah,
there was
they
people
should have been.
all over
Why
his
would
property.
they not have been, Deb? That's
the only thing I remember Ron Logan saying was that the area was lit up at night, which he could have been talking about the bridge area.
He used the word traipsing. He said there was all kinds of people traipsing back. I don't know if I'm saying the word right, back and forth back there. He was confused why they didn't find them that night. He even said that.
And Mike
I
Patty
don't-
said that he saw flashlights everywhere when he was
Yeah.
on his way back from the police station.
So I don't know. They were
and there
covered.
was Becky described it as fireflies. It was just like lit up everywhere in the fields, in the woods. I mean, they were everywhere.
Well, how do you miss them? Like, how does that happen?
How do you miss those girls? That has bothered me since the beginning. Why did somebody? I mean, you're talking to Ron Logan. You're talking to anybody that lives around there. You're trying to find out all this.
They crossed the bridge. You know they were on the bridge.
Exactly, and you know that there is a north side of the creek. Why aren't you looking there? Why, if you think the girls have fallen and maybe are hurt or whatever, wouldn't you look on both sides of the creek banks? It just doesn't.
You would think.
Make sense.
Have a good night, Perry.
You would think.
Night, Perry. You have a good one.
I got about 5 more minutes as well.
Kamala, thank you so very much for your super chat.
But this is amazing. It's over 6 years later, and we're still talking about things that should have been dismissed a long time ago.
You mean the guy that was on the bridge that came forward from day like 1 or 2?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It had to be day 1 or day 2, right? Because
Had to be. Yep.
how do you not detain that man when you already have the description of the bridge guy? So it had to be the 13th or the 14th when he came forward, in my opinion.
And the fact that he was met this conservation officer at a store doesn't surprise me because they're canvassing. Those are canvas reports. People go to the store, come and go. So it's a good spot to talk to people, see, hey, have you seen anything? Have you heard anything?
I think you're right about that, because I think they have something set up in front of the grocery store for that purpose.
I imagine they would. I mean, that's a standard practice. But I've always just had an issue in 2019 with that presser. They made it a point to say anyone that knows anybody that was parked at the CPS building on that day, please notify. Why didn't the conservation officer come forward? Why didn't Richard Allen come forward?
Oh,
It
exactly.
makes no sense.
That's where Steve and I have our roundtables and he's on my show and we talk, he and I have so agreed on this so many times. Everybody has been on that conservation officer as to why he never talked or came forward. My point is, if you are an innocent man that was just out there that day looking at fish and your stock ticker, why the heck didn't you come forward?
Because he's not innocent.
I know. I get it.
Right.
He's not acting like an innocent person now.
Right. I get it, Ruckus.
And
Somebody asked if you've ever been to a crime scene.
many.
I was just going to say, he's retired law enforcement. I'm sure he's seen
Not on purpose, trust me.
many crime scenes. Probably could tell us things we wouldn't want to hear.
I was
you
never
ever
a
created
detective,
one?
so I didn't work.
His name
cases.
is
I was
Ruckus.
never a detective,
His name's Ruckus for a reason.
Yeah.
and I'm 10-8.
That's funny. That is funny.
Yeah, that was a good question. Who asked that?
Oh, Melissa did.
Okay.
I think it was Melissa who asked if you'd ever been to a crime scene. But yeah, I'm like, he's retired law enforcement. Yes, he has. Do you understand, Ruckus, why law enforcement would make so much smoke around a case that they have with this one?
It could be any number of reasons. I don't know what they have. I don't know what they're trying to protect. I don't know how big the net is that they're trying to cast. Allegedly, there's a huge CSAM ring, and but we don't know how much they were using to trick Kagan, because they can lie to a point. They can stretch the truth. As far as I know, the ski mask incident never happened. There's no paperwork. Frank called and asked, and there's no paperwork. There was never a report written, which there would have been. So they were probably lying to him to try and get him to say, "Shit, who had my phone? Oh, that was my friend." Trying to get another name out of him, because they were in
Possibly.
Vegas. It couldn't have been him or his dad. So they were trying to get another name out of him by stretching the truth, making something up.
Yeah. Well, and neither him or his father are tall and skinny, which is how the ski mask guy was supposedly described. So
Those
don't
are
know
two
where people got that from.
those are two separate incidences. That one's from 2010 where they reported a 6'1" guy.
And I don't doubt that there's, these guys are creepy.
these guys, what?
They're creepy. They're creepy as hell, But I got to take off too, guys.
Okay, Maria. Go deal with that, my dear. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Oh, no.
Kristen, thanks for letting me hang out with you guys tonight.
No problem.
It's all the time I have for tonight, but I want to say thanks.
We got to do it again if you're willing.
Yeah, anytime. Just shoot me the invite. I want to give a shout out to Deb and Ruckus.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys again real soon.
All right, take it easy.
Later, guys.
And Ruckus, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
We definitely have to do this. I want you and Steve on together.
Anytime.
So I definitely will be reaching back out to you. You're just wonderful. And I'm so glad I got to finally meet you.
It's same with me. It's been great meeting you and Deb, finally getting to hang out with you. You guys have a good night. Good night, everybody in chat.
Yep. You do the same. You have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Two great guys, you guys.
They are. They're so smart.
They are. And, Sleuth's such a great critical thinker. And he always comes up with some of the great, reasons. And I know he's fixated a lot on those doggone sketches, which I think so many of us were. But I really believe Ruckus is right. The sketches are, to me, they've created more problems in the case than they've helped.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, I have to think, and I agree with you. Sleuth is critical thinker. He's creative too. And I really love how he presents things and gets you thinking. I listen. I don't always get a chance to chat because I'm busy, but I try to listen to everything he does.
Oh, I do too. And I still remember from my days back when I was just literally all on Reddit, and I'd started my Reddit sub, and he did this amazing thing on thinking outside the box and never put yourself in a box. And I wish he would do that again, just so that people would understand what he's talking about, because in so many ways, it's about how we all have this preconceived notion about things, and we let that confirmation bias that we have lead us. And you can't put yourself in a box. You always got to leave one side of it open for all the possibilities that you may not agree with or might not think are possible, because they are possible.
Right. Back to the sketch thing, what I was getting ready to say is, I have to think that when Richard Allen, first of all, when he saw that Libby did a video, it probably scared the crap out of him. And I have to think that when he saw the sketch, that first sketch, he was probably scared. And maybe that's what caused him to come forward and say, hey, man, I was out there, but I had nothing to do with that. And I think they dismissed him at that point because, hey, he's the, manager, assistant, pharmacist, whatever at CVS. And maybe he knew the CO. Maybe he knew the guy. And, oh, yeah, that guy's okay. It's not him, because these types of personalities can really fool people.
Sure.
And so you have to take that into consideration. But, I have to give kudos to Libby, because I think it was John Kelly that said that her video had to strike fear, like enormous fear in him when he realized she had taken a video.
Oh, exactly.
And that is the
Kamala wants
first.
she has to go, and she wants to know if you can tell us a little bit about yourself
Oh, okay.
before she leaves.
Okay. Well, obviously, my name's Deb. I spent many, many years in radio and TV broadcasting in Indianapolis and various markets. I am from Indiana. I followed the case since the day one. We were actually talking about should we go up and help look when they came out and said they found the girls. My husband's a psychologist, and I got a lot of good information from him about these types of people and their personalities. And I have personal a personal investment, I guess, in true crime. You heard me talk earlier about the fact that I, did locate a rapist in the middle of the night, somebody that had been there a year previously and raped my neighbor. And so, I saw that through the court system, et cetera, as a witness. But I also have two cousins that were murdered. And so, I kind of have that feeling that I want to create, help. I want to help. I want to put light on these cases and try to help, find the missing and solve, or at least get the information out there so that law enforcement can get tips, because I don't think any of us really solve anything. But that's who I am. And
we love her. Can't say enough about her. That's all I can say.
I was on, I started my YouTube journey on another YouTube channel. It's a Criming Shame with Sunny and Aspen. And just felt about 8 months ago that it was time to do my own thing. And so I still guest appear on there every once in a while. But my channel is called Deb's True Crime Notebook.
Yep. And she's wonderful. So make sure you go check her out.
You are. You're the wonderful one.
Oh, honey, trust me. Once I found you and started listening to you, I knew that you had a wealth of information about I don't know how to put it. You just have all this information in your head. And I was like, this person has either been in TV, she's done something in front of a camera, because the way you're able to talk and disseminate the information to us about whatever, you can tell.
Oh, thank you.
So I was like, this is a person that I want to, get to know, pay attention to. And
thank you.
So
thank you. That's so sweet. I have a lot of information, and when you've been with the case, and you probably know this since the beginning, you have to cycle through it in your head as you're listening. Is like, was that true, or was that something that we thought was true that's been debunked? Because I'm hearing a lot of that. And I think if I could say anything out there to the YouTube community, to creators, and to people who are supporting us and following us, it's really study the case. And if something has been debunked and it just doesn't make sense anymore, don't keep going there with it, because you're just mucking up the process.
Yep.
And it's almost disrespectful when I hear creators say things like, well, I don't want to be told that, because I want to go through it and experience and research it myself. That's fine, but don't put it out there as true. Just quietly research it. And then make a decision.
We don't always have to report things that we hear. In fact, we shouldn't report everything we hear, because a lot of what we hear isn't true.
Yeah.
So it's, and that's one of the things that's so hard, as I was trying to explain earlier in this particular case, because law enforcement has been so tight-lipped. Everything has been so held close to the vest, which is exactly what Indiana is known for. This isn't something, and you could speak to this because of, your history, but this is not something new to Indiana. This is how they handle their cases. This is how they handle their murder cases. They don't talk about them. They don't go and give you information. They don't. Not that that's right or wrong. It's just how they are. And
well, let me tell you how much they are like that. In the case of one of my cousins who was missing part of our family thought he was just missing for a long time. But what we found out is that they had found his body, and law enforcement told his immediate family, his parents, his siblings, to keep it quiet. Don't tell that you have even found the body, because we are getting ready to make an arrest. And they had to bury him in secrecy. And it was horrible. It was absolutely horrific for them. And this went on, and this has been, he actually died before Libby and Abby. And when his picture was up on the missing, somebody went into a chat and said, "Oh, he looks like the bridge guy. I think he did it." And that was really hard for the family to take, because they couldn't even defend him, because law enforcement had said, keep it quiet. They still have not solved that.
That's terribly sad.
It went on. It's been years, and the family pretty much knows who it is, and law enforcement won't go after him.
It is sad. And
Yeah.
you know, I go back and forth, because it's so funny how I have two different mindset opinions about law enforcement in this area when it comes to Delphi and Flora. I'm like, they have completely dropped the ball on Flora, in my opinion, and they haven't with Delphi.
Yeah.
And if they haven't dropped the ball with Flora, then I would be really shocked, because we hear nothing about Flora anymore. And every time they're asked, "Oh, it's still an ongoing investigation. This is not a cold case." And of course, we know if they end up classifying a case as cold, there's a lot of things that happen because of that. And one of them is funding and money. If you don't have ongoing investigations into big, high-profile cases anymore, you're not necessarily going to get the funding into your county or into your area that you need. And I know there's been a lot of talk out there on the Delphi Street, as I would like to call it, about Carroll County and the funding and the corruption and all this. And all I want to say is, I agree there's corruption there. I don't think the corruption goes as far as them trying to cover up a double homicide.
Right.
I don't think that they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to even go that far with a quadruple homicide. However, with me saying that, I will say, if they are culpable in the Flora girls' murder, and what I mean by that is by negligence, then I could definitely see them trying to cover stuff up and slow things down.
Yeah.
Because I believe in my heart of hearts that in Flora, there was definitely some negligence that happened that night when it comes to how the professionals didn't handle that fire.
Right.
And they can't answer to it. Why did they break out the windows? Why didn't they put up a ladder immediately to that window of that bedroom and get those girls out?
Seriously.
I mean, I know it seems easy after the fact to say that, but those are things that to me are so obvious.
And that's their job. They should know these things, right?
Yes.
If it's obvious, I would be thinking, where are the girls? They're at that window. How can we get to that window?
And they're screaming, and you can hear them, so they're alive, and you know that. And there were a lot of people standing around. Why couldn't they get a ladder? That window wasn't that. I mean, yeah, it's a second story, but come on, somebody's got a ladder. Right. Where was the ladder for the freaking fire department?
Yeah, I think I heard Ruckus on somebody's show, maybe his, say, I would have pulled a pickup truck up there and climbed up
the side of the house,
Right.
And
the other
it's
thing
like,
is, I've read something that said one of the owners, one of the heirs, actually had climbed up and knew how to get on top of that roof because they had locked themselves out before.
Hang on a second. Stephanie, that's not true. That is absolutely not true.
Yeah, no, she was in the
She
hospital.
was in the hospital for a long time. She did not get out unharmed. She had smoke inhalation and burns. She did not get out of her house unharmed.
Yeah.
That is not true.
But it's hard. It's hard, for viewers and for us sometimes to know what is true, because so many people are saying things, and you hear it and you believe them. So I can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, exactly. It's like Cammie just said, why did the police have to go get the fireman? He runs back to the fire station, to grab his gear, and they're still sitting around. And he's like, what are you guys doing? What is the,
Yeah, he said, come on, there's children.
Come on,
in the house.
there's people in the house,
Right.
And yeah, it's insane. She did come running out of the house, but she came running out of the house not in good condition.
Right. She tried to get the children herself, and she couldn't get
up the stairs because of the heat of the fire and the smoke.
Yeah.
Hey, Miss Purse Severe, how are you? Welcome.
I like that name.
I do. I like that name too. Yeah, and V Marie has it right. There was zero urgency by the fire department. Yoder was the only one that seemed to be in hurry the heck up mode.
Right.
So that has, like I said, that part has always bothered me when it comes to Flora. And like I said, I know that there's all of this conversation that goes around on the YouTube channels with the Delphi case. And there's a lot of stuff out there right now where there's people pushing the narrative that there's this conspiracy theory of what's going on, and that Richard Allen is being railroaded and all this other stuff. And I'm not buying into any of that. And I really hope that people that are new to the case really start, like Deb said, start to listen to what was going on. And some of this stuff is not true, and you've got to be careful about what you latch onto.
Right. I saw a video the other day where they were talking about that the picture of Richard Allen on the bridge, or bridge guy on the bridge, had to be fake because they didn't see a shadow. But if you go and watch, Gray Hughes has a debunking video about it. He had his friend walk to that same spot, very similar lighting, same time of day, etc. And you can't see her shadow either. The same as you couldn't see Abby's on the bridge. And you've got to think through this. And to the naked eye, you look and say, yeah, there's no shadow there. So there are some things out there. There's a lot of good debunking videos.
Yes, that most definitely. And if you look at the people that have been covering the YouTube community, that has been covering Delphi from day one, like Gray Hughes, I don't agree with everything Gray does. So everybody don't start chastising me. But I'm here to tell you that one thing he does well is he doesn't put out bogus information.
Right.
No matter what else he does, he puts out facts, and he puts out factual information, and he tries to dispel rumors and crazy, stuff. So you can go back and look at his early videos that he did on this case, where because when he mapped out the crime scene, law enforcement asked him for that. He did help them. So I do trust what he has to say when it comes to that kind of stuff, because he's that type of person that's not going to put out just anything just to put it out there. But I just get frustrated. And after being on being on YouTube for over a year now, I do get frustrated with that.
I was really frustrated a couple weeks ago, to the point where I just couldn't even do anything with my channel, and I really just had to kind of step away. And then Mel from Cold Truth did a video that kind of set things right for me there. There was one, if you guys want to go watch it, where she says, "Why isn't Richard Allen enough?"
Exactly.
Yeah. And so she set some things straight, including one of the things that I heard is that Becky Patty appraised that house for $400,000. And that is absolutely not true. I have the documentation, and Mel gave it to me. It's 42,000 and some dollars. Whoever read that put the, little comment in the wrong place. So just little things like that you have to really look at. And
right. Miss Purse, yes. Sleuth had to leave a little bit after 9. You'd have to go back and watch the replay to see Sleuth on. I'm sorry. He only could stay for about an hour tonight.
Aw. He's awesome.
But yeah, here you're able to have your opinions as long as you're not attacking family members. I don't allow any attacks on family members or victims. I just don't. I don't think that's what we're here for or what we should be doing. It's not our job, I guess, is how I feel about that. But yeah, we are definitely, I'm definitely open. And as long as people remain civil to one another, everybody's allowed to have their opinion. Oh gosh, Cammie, that's hilarious. Cammie says, maybe Kim and Khloe Kardashian would help shine a light on Flora. Might get them to post about it. One post from them would bring huge pressure. Yeah, right? I wish I could get somebody in the national news cycle to pick up Flora, an investigative reporter or somebody who would like to look into that case and start shining a light on it. That's my goal. It's what I've been working for over a year. So I just, I would like to see Flora solved next.
I would too. I've been going through all the information because, to be honest, I mean, I know about Flora, but we were so wrapped up in Delphi case that was our main focus. And so I've been going through, all the documentation I can find and trying to familiarize myself with that as well.
Yeah, Flora is, there's a lot out there, but there's a lot of stuff that people just don't know about. And there's a lot of misconceptions about Flora. And I just think that, Doug Carter did a disservice to Flora when he stood in front of the cameras and said that the family was not being as forthcoming as they could be. And that led people to believe that Galen was not helping. And that is not the truth at all.
Exactly.
Galen wants this case solved more than anything in the world. She lost everything that day, and she is not well. She is still emotionally struggling like crazy to get through every single day without her 4 daughters. So it really upsets me when I hear that people think that she had something to do with this or that she is trying to protect somebody who did. Right. She's not.
And I know that we kind of get into that rut as a society because of the fact that many times it is a family member that does something, but not every time. And so you can't just go there automatically. You have to look at what makes sense. Look at what is the most logical explanation. Yeah. Did they cross the creek and go over to the other side, or did they walk 28 minutes away to another bridge and cross? I mean, you got to use some logic here.
Exactly. Marie, I think why they can't release the 911 tapes, I think the reason the county fought so hard against it is because it shows their negligence. I think it shows that their response time and their response is to what happened on there is going to show negligence. And that's the only reason in my eyes that they would have fought to keep something that you talk to anybody in law enforcement from any state. I've talked to multiple people about this. 911 calls are not are not gone to the Supreme Court of a state to keep from coming out. They're just not. It's the public domain. 911 tapes, that's what they're for. It's part of the public domain. And they fought tooth and nail. They spent over $38,000 in the county's money to keep that tape silent from coming out to us. And there's a big reason for it.
Right. A lawsuit would probably destroy the little town.
It would destroy Flora
Yeah.
if they have a lawsuit against them. Yes, for sure. And Stephanie's right. People are still accusing the Patties to this day. People are still accusing Kelsey. They're still accusing Cody. I see it all the time. Comes into my feed, and I shake my head because it's just, to me, it's sickening.
Right.
And I agree with you when you said about Mel. You know, I said to Maria, when Maria and I had these conversations way last year before Richard Allen was ever a blip on the radar. And I said, you know, what's going to happen is when Bridge Guy is caught and when they catch the person who did this, you can already see the writing on the wall. There is going to be a whole tangent of people that still won't believe it, that still will not be able to let go of their own confirmation bias and their own POI. And
it's a pride issue.
It's almost like it's their sports team, you know?
Right.
They're never going to give that up. They're just not.
Yeah. Nobody likes to be wrong.
And yeah, I mean, you know, the FBI did step in Delphi, and they were there and they laid it out. And I think the FBI was wrong. You know?
Yeah, and I think the fact that they put up, you know, a bazillion billboards around the country really, you know, caused it to the law enforcement to be inundated with so many tips.
Yes. This case is crazy for the amount of tips that it had.
Right. And so, you know, maybe Richard Allen's, the report he gave to the CEO got buried in all of those tips.
It's very, very possible that that it happened, and that there wasn't anything crazy going on or even negligent. It was just that there was so many people. Don't realize when you have such a small community as Delphi is, and the county itself is so small. We're talking 20,000 people for Carroll County. That's not very many people. So they don't have this huge sheriff's office, and they don't have this huge prosecutor's office for the county. And when you're talking 45, 50,000 tips, that's a lot of tips to have to go through.
Right.
You know, I'm lot. But I do agree, like with Ruckus and Steve, there is so much, Deb, that we don't know that the police know. And I want to know what they know.
Right. And having been there, Ruckus and Steve understand that because they know how it works and how it's set up. I wanted to just pick his brain. I kept asking questions.
It's the same thing. It's like whenever I get Steve cornered, you know, I just want to start asking him, well, what about this? And what about that? And I did the same thing with Perry. And it's so funny because you want to ask him about this big case or that big case. And they have to be careful about what they say because they don't want to screw up a case.
No.
And they're not inside the case. So it's hard for them to speculate. And they've been taught not to. You know, because they're evidence-based guys. You know, we go by the evidence. There's one thing I did hear, and I can't remember where it was, honestly. I don't know if it was Twitter, if I was watching a show or whatever, but somebody had said something that I have really thought is the truth. And maybe it was even Pat Brown when they brought up Pat Brown, but the profiler. I may have been watching her show. I can't remember. But they were talking about how law enforcement officers or law enforcement in general, and when they're looking at a case, they have to even if it's a cold case and they're asked to come back in and take a look at it, and they're like, well, this is what we know. And, they're like, no, we don't care what you know. We're going to start this case as if it's fresh, brand new to us. We don't want to hear your theories or your opinions because they don't matter to us. We are detectives. We're going to investigate this from the beginning. And we're going to look at every single piece of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it should be. And it's Doug Carter has told us this over and over again, as he's explained, for law enforcement. It's not about what we think. It's not about what we believe. It's what can we prove?
Mm-hmm.
And where is the evidence leading us? The evidence doesn't always go where we want it to go or think it should go.
Right.
And that's kind of what I was saying before about Hagen Klein. The evidence might lead away from him. And if it does, it does. You still got to follow the evidence where it goes. It might not be where people want it to go.
I remember Doug Carter saying we learned a tremendous amount through the investigation, through the investigative course. And he was speaking about Hagen Klein. So, I do believe there was I know because I've seen the arrests happen. I've seen them. We've had hundreds and hundreds of arrests. It's been insane. All child pornography, child solicitation, etc. Since all this started. So it's Indiana's largest, CSAM case ever. So that is for sure.
Look who's here.
Aspen.
Hey, you. How are you, my dear? So good to see you. You want to hop up here with Deb and I?
Yeah, get up here, boy.
Hang on a second. There you are, my dear. Come on aboard. Come on in, Aspen. Spend some time with Deb and I. We got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
We can talk about this stuff. But he said next time. He must be busy.
Time. He must still be
busy.
Yeah.
He must still be busy.
Just checking in with us.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did, and I'm glad you're here. But yeah, we really need that. And it's funny because I just got a text from Steve. He's like, I've been driving 11 hours. He goes, I've been listening to the show though.
Oh Lord.
So that's awesome. Oh, he's on his way home. Well, you drive careful. Don't you, don't you get into any trouble. I really feel like we got the guy, and I think that I really find it interesting that Ruckus and Sleuth both don't think it's going to go to trial. How do you feel about that?
I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I mean, because of the fact, here's why. If he is having mental issues, then I think it's going to be stretched out for a long while.
Agreed.
I don't think he's going to confess. I don't think he's going to confess. So if they can get that squared away, I think there'll be a trial. But if he is having that much of mental issues, then it's probably going to get stretched out while he's somewhere recuperating.
Oh,
and, obviously he wasn't. I mean, I know that option is there for him in Westville and has been there, but obviously he wasn't getting that care. If he looks the way he looks, and if in fact he is having psychosis, etc. So he may be getting it. He may be getting it now. Once the judge got involved.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you. You said earlier that you thought once he saw Libby's video that he must have lost his mind.
Yeah.
And thought, oh my God.
Yeah. I was
Because I
reading
don't think he had any idea that she had recorded him.
right. And I was reading an article about serial killers, and they asked the serial killer, what's the first thing that went through your mind after you committed the unaliving? And they said fear.
Mm-hmm.
I have these bodies. I have to get rid of these bodies. I have to do something. It's fear. So I think that was probably the first time he felt fear, with his, sadistic personality. And then I think once he saw the video and then the sketch, he probably was scared out of his mind too.
And the fact that Libby told Max about Anthony Schatz,
mm-hmm.
that leads me to believe that Libby's not as gullible as people may think she was. And it also makes, because she was a smart cookie. Come
Mm-hmm.
on, we know she was.
She was.
She was taking a class at Purdue, for God's sake. This girl was not just some,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say typical, but I'm just saying she wasn't some, crazy little teenager. She was a really smart kid. And
Yeah.
I think that she probably had a lot of questions. And there's been rumor that she had something she wanted to talk to police about. She told her friends at school that there was something she needed to talk about or something. What if she did find out she was being catfished? What if she did find out that this person that was claiming to be Anthony Schatz wasn't who he was? I've always had that in the back of my mind too, that if this was something where they were involved, and like you said, this is a huge CSAM ring, they get wind of the fact that she's gonna, possibly know something that could get them brought down.
Right.
That's a motive.
To me, that's a really strong motive. And I've thought that a lot from the, very beginning that we saw Kagan Klein and the whole, that situation. I've thought that definitely. I don't know. He's got to be involved. It's just too much of a coincidence. He has to be involved in, at least at the bare minimum, catfishing the girls.
Yeah. Well, I think he admitted that he had talked to Libby. I don't think he denied that, but I do think it's interesting how he said that she annoyed him and that he had deleted her.
And I don't believe he deleted her, because I just don't think that any guy who catfishes every girl coming and going is going to delete, a young girl like that. He's going to continue to try to work that situation.
For sure. Babs forever. Thank you so much. You are so awesome. Thank you for being here. I agree. I don't think he deleted her. I don't think he would want to. These guys, they try to manipulate these girls and get them to do what they want and send them the stuff that they're hoping they get. And I think he met his match in her. It's quite possible. So
yeah, it's very quite possible. But that by the same token, your theory about Richard Allen seeing her every day, or seeing her stopping at the McDonald's across from the CVS, we just don't know.
No, we absolutely don't. And he lives so close. I mean, he was really close to their school. I mean, it's possible that he saw him out walking. Libby and Kelsey would go geocaching at the trail, and stuff. They talked about that they had just done it like the week or two before, and he could have seen him there. It's, I just feel like people tend to forget how small Delphi is. And when you are in Delphi and you drive into Delphi, you can tell how small it is. It's one of those little tiny communities that it's just tiny, and people know each other.
V Maria has a question. She says, I'm curious about the Anthony _Schatz money account. A lot of people think that when that was mentioned, that they were insinuating that he had sent money to Libby, but it doesn't actually just say that. It says he was had contacted her through the money account, and there is an account that they referred to and called the money account, and that's the one with it's like a $sign on the front of the account. I can't remember if it's I can't remember what it was. Was it Cash App or if it was an Instagram?
I think it was Cash. I think it was a Cash
Okay.
App, maybe.
So, we don't know that money was sent.
We don't know any of that.
Yeah.
That's just speculation that's been put out there and people ran with it, and it's just become a narrative.
Yeah.
That Libby got money from him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that's true.
Right.
But, what was I thinking? There was a question in here I saw. CJK wanted to know their Snapchat saying we've got a secret.
Well, according to Becky, and this is the only information I have on that, it was a song that was out at the time, and that's what that was about. And that's the only information we have to go on.
Yeah, because I like I said, again, so many rumors, so many things that are out there and that we don't know for sure that are true or not true. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Hey, Laura Ann, thank you so much for joining. We so appreciate you.
Hey, Laura.
Thanks for being here. So yeah, it's going to be hard to know. I'm anxious to see what happens or what's going to happen in June.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 14th and 15th, right?
It's the 15th is the date that sticks out in my mind.
And they think they set, I was just going to say, I think it's set for 2 days.
I think you're right. The 15th is the only one I can remember.
At this point, I think, there's going to be this argument for bail. I don't see that happening, but it'll be interesting to see what happens between now and then. If he's not yet been moved, that's interesting to me, because I would think that the court would, she said he could be moved. And if they wanted him moved, why the heck hasn't he been moved yet? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't they act on that right away? Mm-hmm. If they feel like he's not benefiting from where he's at and he's not able to, spend time with his attorneys and all this other stuff, mm-hmm. Because of the safekeeping. I just don't get it.
Well, maybe they don't have a place that they can keep him safe other than there. A local jail is not going to do it, not going to be able to do it. And so maybe there's a lot of overcrowding. Maybe they just don't have a place for him yet. I don't know why I know they want to get him closer to his attorneys, etc., but I don't know why they can't keep him where he is. And if there are psychological services there at Westville, wrap those services around him.
Yeah, exactly. I want him safe. I want him safe. I want him healthy. I want him taken care of. He is innocent until proven guilty, no matter what we think of him, no matter what we think he's done. Mm-hmm. He still is afforded all of the constitutional laws that all of us are afforded. And if we believe in our democracy and we believe in our justice system, we have to uphold those. We have to make sure this man gets what he's supposed to be getting as a person who has not been found guilty of anything yet. Mm-hmm.
Whether we like it or not.
Exactly. And that's what scared me about it was, oh my gosh, I don't want this to be something that he could get off on appeal, later on down the road when an appellate attorney takes over and says, my God, they mistreated this man before he was ever, before he was ever charged.
Right.
And have somebody overturn a conviction in this case. That would, to me, would be the worst possible outcome.
Exactly. And that's scary to think that could
mm-hmm.
happen.
Yeah.
But, hopefully, whether he's been moved or not, hopefully he's getting the psychological care that he needs, and whatever physical care he needs to put some weight back on him, get him looking and feeling and acting healthy again.
Right. And, people have said it, it's his choice if he eats or not. I mean, if he chooses not to eat, there's not a whole lot that people can do. So.
Exactly.
Hey,
Exactly.
VVS. He was here. We started at 8:00 and Central Standard Time, and Sleuth left a little bit after 9. He only could be here for about an hour tonight. If you go back and watch the replay, you'll be able to see him.
Yeah.
It was a great night with him. So
yeah,
he's a great
always.
Guy. So
he's the coolest guy in YouTube.
Him and his sunglasses. He cracks me up. Yeah. But Steph is right. We have to keep him sane if we want a trial, and that's the bottom line. And I think you're right. He was sane enough to write a letter to the court.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. That's so funny she said that, because I sent that exact thing to Aspen in a private chat, said the same thing.
And it's so funny because CJK just said earlier, I think it was CJK that said it, was he was sane enough to buy a house. He was sane enough to hold down a job. He was sane enough to play pool twice a week, spend time with his family, go on vacations. So,
exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, right. If he's having a mental break or if he's having mental issues, it could be because he has never been locked up before. I can't imagine what that must feel like to be caged. Yeah. You're in there and you can't get out unless somebody lets you. You are literally locked into this space. Your food has to be brought to you. I mean, you have no control of anything. That would not be an easy transition for anyone.
No, absolutely not. Especially not someone if they were already inclined to have, some psychological depression, etc.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or anxiety or whatever. Yeah. You can see how that could just, and if it is a person who has issues with alcohol and no longer has that, then that's just going to exacerbate the whole situation for them.
Yeah. Cammie had a good question. She said, what do you think about new possibility of cameras in Indiana courts? I think that it's a real I think my personal opinion is it's a real possibility that the judge is going to allow that, because that was something that she was, on the panel to discuss and develop, and she doesn't have a problem with it. And they've already been installed. We've, seen pictures of them in the Carroll County courtroom. So I think it's a real possibility.
I'm hoping, well, we know that Francis Gall is one of the judges that tested it out in her courtroom. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that she would want it.
Yeah.
The thing that I was kind of holding back for was that I thought, man, they don't want it to become a circus. And they know how this case is already, with it. And I'm like, for me, I hope to God it's televised. I want to be glued to the TV and watch every moment of it.
Right. And because that courtroom is so small, it might help it not to be a circus.
True.
Inside the courtroom, because then the press, could stay out and be somewhere else viewing it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is small. They're not going to, I mean, even just to have the family members there is going to take up the majority of that courtroom.
Right.
And they have every right to be there.
Right.
I'm not saying the press doesn't either, but then that courtroom's not gonna make it because it's so small.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
So hey, Tech Death, how are you, my dear? You are still here. He gets so quiet sometimes I forget. He plays a lot. When I'm here, when he's modding for me and he's listening to my show, he's actually playing his guitar.
Really?
And yes, isn't that incredible?
Oh,
I
you
mean,
should
he's-
have him on one night. To play,
I
but
want to have him on. I had said a long time ago, him and Hoosier and God, was it Derek maybe? They were all going to come on and they were going to jam. We were going to have this jam session. And
yeah, I think as long as they did original material.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would love it. I would absolutely love to have them on. He says he'll do it. He promises. And he knows. I've been asking him for a year to come on and just, we'll just have a night of music and all the guys that play can come on and we can just listen to him. I could listen to him for hours. He's constantly sending me stuff and I love his music.
I love your music that he did for you. I was listening to it before the show in the back room and I was like, oh, it's so beautiful.
I just love his music. All you have to do is talk to him. He'll give you some music to use for your channel. He will. That's just who he is.
That would be awesome.
Just talk to him. And, did you hear that, Tech Death? Deb needs some music. It gives him exposure. And so it's good, Yeah, GonZo needs to sing. GonZo needs to come on too, and he needs to sing. So they just need to we just need to get them all together.
Right?
Yeah, Tech Test said, I love making music for Deb. So there you go. See?
Awesome.
See?
Love that.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait to hear.
Stephanie said, and his attorneys say he was treated worse than men who served our country, is disrespectful to military. That's true. The other thing I was thinking about is a lot of what his attorney said. I'm like, but that's standard. That's what every prisoner is getting, a 6x10 cell. Normally,
exactly.
Right. Normally there's 2 people in that cell. He has one to himself, new clothing twice a week. I mean,
hey, Jerry. Good night, my dear. Thank you so much for being here.
And all prisoners have to have somebody put money on the books to pay to communicate, chirps, etc. So
I was like, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's just the way it works in jail,
Right.
and I get where they're coming from. He's not been convicted. But when you get arrested, that's kind of why I said he still belongs in county. And everybody's like, well, they can't keep him safe there. And I'm like, it's a small county. They have Brian Koberger in Moscow, Idaho, in their county jail. And I mean, what, you're telling me you can't protect him in this tiny little jail in the county? Something's not right there. I just don't think they have the responsibility of it, honestly.
Possibly.
But it's I don't know. V. Marie says attorneys aren't exactly considered honest. There are some really good attorneys out there who are. Attorneys get a bad rap, so don't forget that. It's just like any other profession. You're going to have your bad apples, but that doesn't taint the whole lot of them.
I had to laugh when I was listening to Murder Sheets, and they were interviewing people who were describing Baldwin as an attorney, and that he was a slob and he had a car that he couldn't put in reverse and all these funny things. And I had to laugh because I thought to myself, I bet he's really, really good, because I bet he's deceiving to other people. I had an attorney like that when I lived down south, that I had to go into litigation against a radio station I worked for. And when I first met him, I thought, oh my gosh, what have I hired? Because he just looked like he just crawled out of bed and didn't, threw on something, didn't comb his hair. But the guy showed up in court dressed to the nines and was slick as all get out.
Do you remember?
And I won my case.
Do you remember Columbo?
Yeah, he was like Columbo. He was like a big country Columbo.
I mean, you got Columbo. Do you remember Rockford Files?
A little bit, yeah.
He was the private eye that lived in the little tiny trailer on the beach. I mean, it was a mess. I mean, he was a mess.
Right.
But these guys were excellent at what they did. So the outward appearance is sometimes very deceiving.
Right.
I think that he's got good attorneys, which is what I hoped for. I wanted him to have good attorney. I didn't want anything to happen with this case that could be gotten off on a technicality. Oh, Steffa, I just love you. I just do. And, it cracks me up because it just shows you how old I am because I used to watch the Rockford Files.
I remember it. I just didn't watch it all that much, but I do remember. I think he lived with his father or something, didn't he? Dad was involved in the show.
Yeah, his dad was involved in the show.
Yeah.
But
we're dating ourselves.
I know, I'm too old. I'm telling you, it's just but yeah, I think that we've got a while to wait. I was very surprised to hear both of them tonight, though, say that they don't think that it'll go to trial. And I don't think they necessarily were talking about his mental state. I think they think that he's going to plea out. And they thought that maybe, it's like I said, I don't know that they'll accept a plea. At this point, they have him on murder.
Right.
If they can prove that, which from everything that I've seen and everything Steve has even seen, he talks about it a lot. Talks about it on his show, True Crimes Web, you guys, if you're not familiar when I say Steve, who I'm talking about, it's True Crime Web. And he's a retired law enforcement. He believes wholeheartedly they have enough on Richard Allen with what we know. And that's not everything to get him for kidnapping. So if they have that based on Indiana's law, they've got enough.
Yeah, I agree. But, it definitely gives you food for thought to think about if there is someone else involved. And if you do have the theory in your mind that Richard Allen didn't actually commit the unaliving part, then I guess you would have to say has to give somebody up and to get a plea, right?
Yeah.
If that's your theory.
I just have felt, I guess the reason that I lean towards lone wolf at this point is because I'm at this point where it's well over 6 years. And I really feel if anyone else was involved in this crime, they would know by now. They would know who this person was. And if they do know who the person is, and if there is a person, they know who it is, then they don't have enough to prosecute. And that's just the way I feel, because I think that we would have already had an arrest.
Yeah. I think I lean that way too. Absolutely.
So I just don't see more arrests coming in this case for Delphi. I think that if there are, it may be somebody who maybe aided and abetted after the fact. Or helped, get rid of evidence or helped conceal the crime. But I just don't think there was anyone involved in the event before the crime at this point. That's where I'm leaning. I'm open to anything. Everybody needs to know that. I'm the type of person that I wouldn't be surprised if anything came out.
I lean towards that there was somebody involved in it to get the girls there, because of the fact that when they came out and asked if anyone had seen them, they said, I'm trying to remember the exact phrase here. They used the tip line they used the Abby and Libby tip line when they asked about the Anthony Schatz account. When they did the press release on TV at 10 something at night, they used the Abby and Libby tip line. So
I think they did that though, because it was associated, Anthony Schatz was associated with Abby and Libby's case, because they knew he'd been talking to them. And so since they knew that, I think that's why they would have used the Abby, God, I can't talk. Abby and Libby tip line.
Right. That's why I think there's somebody involved beforehand.
Yep. So I just hope if there is that they're able to get them. I don't want anybody to get off and be able to walk on this, you know. And if it turns out that Richard Allen had an accomplice or had somebody that was working with him, I pray that they're able to break him and that he will talk and give up that person.
Yeah. Well, if he's having mental issues, it looks like he'd be kind of easy to break right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, well, my dear, I'm tired.
I know you are.
It's been a long day. I mean, a soccer game, a 4-year-old birthday party, and now, you know, my great evening with all of you. And it's just been long. So
thank you for having me. And I really enjoyed it. Always do. And I was just thrilled to be on with Ruckus and Sleuth. Obviously.
We got to do it again. Next time that we do it, I want to have Steve back on with us. I'd like to set up something where we do it on a regular, because I think it's awesome to have law enforcement with us. I love that perspective that they can put on everything. And I just think that we all work really well together, as far as, you know, how our thoughts bounce off of one another. I respect all of you so much.
Thank you. Well, we respect you too.
So I appreciate you, my dear. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks.
Stay safe out there.
Get some rest.
My dear. Yes, thank you. Love you.
All right. Love you too.
Bye. So you guys, I appreciate everyone who was here tonight and who, you know, just stuck around for the show and was, you know, interacting in chat. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's questions and stuff, but we appreciate you. And the fact that you guys are here with us to talk about these cases means so very much. And I think it was Lisa that I saw that asked the question. Hey, Lisa, about Flora. If you have information on Flora, no matter what it is, tip it in. Let law enforcement decide what is valuable and what isn't. Tip it in, period. If you have information on Flora, you tip it in. And V. Marie, thank you so much for being here. I have some of the best mods on YouTube. They are awesome. And my supporters are as well. Everybody who subscribes to this channel and comes in and interacts in my chats are so respectful and kind and funny. So I appreciate all of them. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend. Please make sure that you're safe out there. And remember, it doesn't take anything to be kind. Please be kind to everyone. Thank you so much.